Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into what's called the deliver phase in product management.
Right. And this is really where managing the product day to day meets its own kind of natural life cycle.
Yeah, the growth, the maturity, and then eventually that decline stage.
And what's really key, I think, from the start is that this isn't just a straight line. Our sources, they really hammer this home. It's more like a circle, maybe even a spiral.
A spiral. Okay, so constantly adapting.
Exactly. You're always tweaking the product, changing up the strategy. You have to. You're responding to customers, company needs, whatever the market's doing, really.
Makes sense. And the length of this phase, it's not fixed, is it? I mean, a washing machine lasts ages, but a smartphone.
Totally different time scale. Could be years for some things, months for others, especially in tech.
So for product managers listening, the big challenge is how do you balance that investment versus the return you expect, throughout the product's entire life?
It really comes down to smart resource allocation. Knowing or anticipating maybe when putting more effort into the current thing starts giving you less back. And then having the foresight to pivot, look towards what's next.
Even if that means winding down something that still seems okay on the surface?
Sometimes, yeah. That's the tough part. It's about long-term health.
Our sources use a great analogy comparing these stages to human life. Launch is infancy. Growth is like childhood.
Right. Maturity is adulthood, the long stretch. And decline is like old age. It makes it quite relatable.
And just like life, the marketing never stays the same. Car ads always shouting about the latest feature, or cereal brands with those weird limited-time flavors.
Yeah, and behind all that, there's this calculation going on. Which products get the big marketing budget? Which ones just coast? You might even spend more promoting a new product than it's actually earning at first.
An upfront investment for later gains.
Precisely. You're betting on making it back, and then some, during growth and maturity. So our mission, really, for this deep dive is to break down these stages, growth, maturity, decline, and figure out the different marketing plays you need for each one to, maximize profit.
Okay, let's start with growth. That burst of energy after a successful launch. Now, the focus shifts, right? It's about standing out from the crowd, grabbing that market share.
Exactly. You start seeing real market acceptance, more people buying in, profits are climbing, and the marketing goal changes too. It becomes about stimulating what the sources call selective demand.
Selective demand, meaning demand for your specific product, not just the category.
Precisely. You want them choosing your brand over the others.
Okay, so how do you make that happen? How do you become the standout? Product improvement seems key.
Absolutely vital. You can't just sit still. You need to be constantly making it better, exceeding expectations, fixing any weaknesses, adding features that differentiate.
Making it the no-brainer choice.
That's the goal.
And price. How does pricing play in during growth?
Well, if you started high, you probably need to adjust towards the competition. You can still charge a bit more, a premium, but only if that extra value is super clear.
Otherwise, you risk people going for the cheaper option.
Right. You need that differentiation to justify it. You start building loyalty now.
Yeah, get them hooked early. And the marketing message needs to be loud and clear about why you're better.
Definitely. No subtlety needed here. Shout those unique benefits because the market's getting crowded. Customers are smarter. They need clear reasons.
And distribution. Getting it out there.
You push for wider distribution, what's called intensive distribution. More partners, more channels. They see it's taking off, they want in.
And your own sales team needs to be armed and ready.
Oh, absolutely. Product managers often work closely with marketing here, making sure sales has the right info, the right tools. Sometimes PMs even jump into key sales calls.
Helping close those big deals makes sense. Now, towards the end of growth, profits might start to level off a bit.
Yeah, you might see that curve begin to flatten. That's your cue, really.
Cue for what?
To start thinking about segmenting the market more finely. Finding specific niches or user groups to target. That keeps the momentum going, even if it's a bit slower, before you head into the next phase.
Which is maturity. Okay, so growth starts to plateau, things level off. That's maturity kicking in.
Correct. Sales growth isn't as steep anymore. You've kind of reached peak distribution. So the company's focus often shifts.
Shifts how?
Towards things like product line extensions, maybe, or running more promotions to try and boost sales from the current base.
But our sources really stress something here, the need for ongoing new product research during maturity. Why then?
Because nothing lasts forever. Even your star product will eventually fade. You have to be looking ahead, figuring out what the market will need next, developing those future revenue streams while your current one is still strong.
So maturity is peak sales, peak competition, experienced customers.
Exactly. It's a tougher environment. Customers know what they want. They've seen it all.
So keeping profits up requires different tactics. What kind of marketing strategies work here?
Well, like I mentioned, expanding the product line is a big one. Offering variations, maybe slightly different features, targeting niche groups, sometimes with the same brand name, sometimes new ones.
And pricing. More pressure there.
Definitely. You often see more price cuts or discounts to stay competitive. It's less about explosive growth now and more about defending your market share, protecting your profitability.
Defending the turf. Got it. So maybe still some new features, but not as much as in growth.
Generally, yes. Less intense on the feature front, maybe more focus on promotions. And another thing, refreshing the product's image.
Ah, the makeover, new packaging, a design tweak.
Exactly. Just to stop it feeling, old and tired. Even small aesthetic changes or new model versions can keep it looking fresh.
And sometimes you might need to fundamentally reposition it, change how people see it.
Yes, if customer needs shift, or competitors make a big move, or the market changes, you might need to reposition to stay relevant.
And what about adding value around the product, services and stuff?
That's the augmented product idea. Things like adding free setup, better warranties, faster delivery. These extras can actually help extend that maturity phase by adding value beyond just the core item.
And this stage, maturity, it's often the most profitable, right? Even though growth has slowed.
Typically, yes. You've achieved scale, maybe costs are lower, so profitability peaks here. It's a really crucial financial phase.
Interesting point, too, that a product can get pushed into maturity faster if something disruptive comes along.
Absolutely. A competitor launches something way better or cheaper, and suddenly your product feels mature, maybe even old, much quicker than you planned.
Right. Okay, so after the long stretch of maturity, eventually, things start to head downhill, the decline stage.
Yeah, that's when sales and profits really start to fall off, often pretty quickly. Usually it's new technology or just a major shift in what people want.
And the company faces a big decision then, try to revive it or let it go.
Exactly, it's that critical choice point. Interestingly, some competitors might drop out at this stage, simplifying things slightly.
So for those who stay, what are the options? You mentioned harvesting.
Right, harvesting is basically cutting way back on expenses, less marketing, less support, maybe just some reminder ads. The goal is to squeeze out the last remaining profits with minimal extra spending.
But that makes it decline faster, presumably.
It does. It's a trade-off. You get more profit per unit sold, but the end comes quicker.
What else? Just stopping altogether.
Yep, discontinue is an option, like Apple does with older models sometimes. Or you could try to sell the product line off.
Like GE selling its small appliances to Black & Decker.
Classic example. Find a buyer where it fits better.
When deciding to discontinue, though, it's not just about that one product's sales figures, is it?
No, definitely not. You have to think about the knock-on effects. Does it help sell other things in your lineup? Are products complementary?
Right. And customer obligations, warranties, spare parts.
Hugely important. You have to honor those commitments. It's about brand reputation long-term. Providing service and parts is crucial.
And there's another hidden cost, isn't there? A declining product can just suck up resources.
Oh, absolutely. It can demand way too much team time, focus, energy, stuff that could be going into the next big thing, the new growth products.
And often it's just technology moving on that causes decline. Rotary phones, word processors.
Exactly. New tech just makes the old way obsolete. It's a major driver.
So it sounds like these stages happen, but maybe the length of them, especially maturity, isn't set in stone. Companies can influence that.
They certainly can. You can't stop decline forever, but you can definitely use tactics to extend that profitable maturity stage.
Okay, what are some ways to stretch out maturity?
Well, you could try to get your existing customers to use the product more. Or find new uses for it within a company, maybe. Adding or updating features consistently helps keep it fresh. Running price promotions can tempt customers away from rivals.
What about getting totally new users?
Advertising focused on trial, maybe. Like free web trials for software, encourage people who have never used it to give it a shot. And then there's the more aggressive move.
Acquisition.
Right, buying out a competitor like the Oracle and Siebel example. That consolidates the market and extends your mature phase.
It all comes back to managing the whole portfolio, doesn't it? Balancing the old with the new.
Exactly. You need that mix. Declining products ideally funded by the profits from mature ones, while growth products are building the future. It's about creating that strategic blend for long-term market strength.
Okay, so eventually the decision comes to exit this whole deliver phase. How do you know when it's really time for the final retire phase? Are there specific signals?
Yeah, our sources say it's crucial to define key indicators beforehand. Things you agree will signal the end,
Like what?
like demand just falling so low it's consistently unprofitable. Or seeing a long-term irreversible drop in demand for the whole category of products
Hmm.
because customer habits have fundamentally changed.
Okay.
Maybe the market itself becomes really unstable, lots of competitors merging or disappearing, or even a big shift in your own company's strategy. Maybe the product just doesn't fit anymore, especially if the company's in survival mode and it's not a core revenue driver.
So it's based on clear signals, not just a feeling. And the product manager leads that final check.
Typically, yes. They conduct an exit review, make sure all those agreed-upon indicators have been looked at, confirm that it really seems like an irreversible shift before making the call to move into retirement.
This has been really illuminating, digging into the deliver phase, the whole life cycle. The main takeaway for me is just how vital it is to understand these stages: growth, maturity, decline.
Absolutely. Because how you manage your product and your marketing through each stage directly impacts how profitable it is, how successful it is overall.
It really dictates the outcome. So here's the final thought for you listening. Think about a product you use all the time. Where do you reckon it sits in its life cycle? Is it growth, maturity, or decline? And what makes you think that? What's the evidence? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.